Howdy and good afternoon. Today on Public Eye News, your favorite bar might be able to stay open later with the latest with COVID vaccinations. Later, Megan Garcia will have your weather and Scott Minshaw will have your sports. Hi, I'm Nate Jacobs, and this is Public Eye News. The Marquette County Board is interested in having the option of having a lift in their medical examining services. Looking for help with forensic investigations, Dr. David Stockman, a pathologist with the Michigan Institute of Forensic Science and Medicine, says the addition would be extremely beneficial. This cost analysis on the program would total around $75,000 based off Marquette County's population. On the necessity of the program, Dr. Stockman said, quote, basically a large portion of your emergency network is just waiting for a body pickup, end quote, and that all first responders would benefit. The Marquette Board has not made any final decisions as of yet. And Michigan lawmakers have introduced House Bill 4213, which would help give bars the option to extend liquor sales from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. If passed, bar owners who want the hours extension can apply and pay an initial and annual renewal fee of $250. On Tuesday, Governor Whitmer increased the maximum capacity in bars and restaurants from 25% to 50% and extended curfews from 10 to 11 p.m. The bill is currently waiting to go through both the State House and Senate. Then it has to be approved and signed by Governor Whitmer. And the Michigan Senate Oversight Committee issued a formal documents request to the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services yesterday, seeking interdepartmental communications between department officials related to Governor Gretchen Whitmer's administration policies that place people infected with COVID-19 into the state's nursing homes, adult foster care facilities, and long-term care facilities. The request also seeks any and all documents DHHS provided to the Civil Rights Division of the U.S. Department of Justice per its request of August 26, 2020. The committee requested that the communications be turned over no later than 5 p.m. on Tuesday, March 16th. And Michigan's first doses from Johnson & Johnson are coming in today. It's the third vaccine in our country's arsenal. 2 of those are being produced in West Michigan, Pfizer in Portage, and Johnson & Johnson in Grand Rapids. But some counties in our area don't have access to either of those. News Channel 3's Mike Krafik is in Van Buren County to explain why.
Michigan has administered more than 2 million vaccines in the last 2.5 months. The Van Buren and Cass County Health Department gets about 1,700 Moderna doses each week.
So even if the allotment is small, if we're getting allotment from 3 manufacturers versus the 1 presently and soon to be 2, it makes a difference.
At a drive-through clinic in Lawton today,
So they actually have the vaccine in the truck.
health officials stretched the Moderna vaccine supply as far as possible. It's the only type of vaccine they've gotten.
So the most difficult piece of supply right now is making sure that we're always having enough to fulfill the second doses that we need to take care of. And that's been really challenging the last couple weeks with the supply that we've gotten.
Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccines no longer require storage in ultra-cold freezers, according to new FDA regulations. Danielle Persky with the Van Buren Cass Health Department says now they could store Pfizer's vaccine, but haven't received any shipments.
The rural counties aren't getting the Pfizer, and to add to that, rural counties having satellite hospital systems, and hospitals are primarily getting Pfizer. It complicates right now with the low freezer temps how to get that out to the rural areas. We've got our tray here of the vaccine, which
She says Van Buren and Cass counties expect to get 850 doses of the Johnson & Johnson single-dose vaccine on Friday.
we're hopeful, of course, because the rollout seems like it's going to be pretty aggressive.
We'll be right back at you with your national and international news.
Blacksmithing has become a lost art.
It's something from the old, way back.
When you're making something by hand, they don't always turn out exactly the same, and I think that is what makes them unique.
Every swing of that hammer has to be intentional. We want it to have the look and the feel of a handmade work of art.
Tonight at 9:30 on WNMU TV.
Welcome back. In an attempt to cut down on protests in regards to last month's military coup, Myanmar security forces killed at least 33 protesters earlier today. The Democratic Voice of Burma reports that they believe the death toll to be even higher, around 38. Demonstrators have been taken to the streets in cities across Myanmar after the military seized power on the morning of February 1st of this year. And earlier this morning in Toronto, Alec Minasayan was found guilty on 10 counts of first-degree murder and 16 counts of attempted murder after using a van to kill 10 pedestrians in April of 2018. His sentencing will come at a later date, but Minasayan is facing an automatic life sentence with no parole for at least 25 years. And a former U.S. Marine found guilty of conspiracy to illegally export and smuggle firearms and controlled equipment from the U.S. to Haiti. Prosecutors allege that 34-year-old Jacques Sebastian Durso smuggled the weapons to train Haiti's army in the foreign armed conflict. They also said Durso and a co-conspirator impersonated high-ranking military officers pretending to be military business so they could legally move 8 firearms by commercial aircraft to Haiti. Kenya and Rwanda both received their first batches of COVID vaccines. 1 million doses of the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine arrived in Nairobi, Kenya early this morning. The vaccines will be administered to some 400,000 medical workers, and the rest will go to other frontline workers such as teachers and police officers. Rwanda received 240,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine, with 102,960 Pfizer doses expected later Wednesday. Health Minister Daniel Ngami said the country's target is to vaccinate 36% of the population by the end of the year and 60% by the end of 2020. And at least 10 rockets hit a military base in Iraq overnight that houses around 2,000 U.S.-led coalition troops. A defense official tells CBS News no U.S. coalition troops were wounded, but a civilian contractor died of a heart attack. Tuesday's rocket attack follows Friday's U.S. airstrike on militias in Syria that are backed by Iran. Skylar Henry reports from the White House.
Video on social media shows the wreckage of what Iraqi forces believe was the launch pad to carry out Wednesday's rocket attack on a military base used by American forces in Iraq. The attack on Al-Assad Air Base is the first since the U.S. struck Iran-backed militia targets in Syria last week.
The strike was authorized in response to recent attacks against American and coalition personnel in Iraq and to ongoing threats to those personnel.
Wednesday's attack targeted the same base that Iran struck in January of last year, injuring dozens of U.S. servicemen in what was the largest ever ballistic missile attack against Americans. That attack was in retaliation for the U.S.-directed drone strike that killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. The Pentagon says the base's missile defensive systems engaged during the attack, and there are no reports of any injuries to U.S. service members. However, one American civilian contractor died of a heart attack. Wednesday's rocket strike comes 2 days ahead of Pope Francis's trip to Iraq, where he's expected to not only meet with Christians who were persecuted during the Islamic State insurgency, but also try to boost ties with the Shiite Muslim world. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
Investigators are trying to figure out what led to a car crash in California that left at least 13 people dead. One area of particular interest is why one of the vehicles, an SUV, was carrying more than 3 times the number of passengers it was designed to hold. CBS's Deborah Alfarone has more.
Homeland Security in San Diego says it has initiated a human smuggling investigation after a 2-car crash near the Mexican border yesterday left more than a dozen people dead.
We need as many ambulances as you can handle right now.
Police say this 1998 SUV designed to hold 8 people was packed with 25 when it collided with a tractor trailer. California Highway Patrol says the middle and rear seats of the SUV were removed, making room for more people, but also making it less safe.
Some people were ejected onto the pavement, onto the ground, that passed away as a result of those injuries. Other people were found deceased within the vehicle, and then some of the walking wounded were able to pull themselves out of the vehicles.
The cause of the crash is still unclear. Among the factors investigators say they're looking at, the speed of the tractor trailer and whether the SUV stopped at a stop sign before it entered the highway. Police say the occupants of the SUV ranged in age from 16 to 53.
The important thing is that 13 people died in this crash. We owe it to the families of those that were killed and injured, as well as the public, to conduct a complete and thorough investigation.
In an unusual move, the National Transportation Safety Board has sent a team to investigate the crash. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News.
After this break, we'll be right back with your weather and sports.
They were UP miners and mill workers, but they took on some of the NFL's finest. This rich deposit of football history is being unearthed in a new documentary revealing the links between 5 Upper Peninsula communities and the Green Bay Packers.
His nickname was Tuffy, and he ended up coaching the darn Packers.
Don't miss Linked to Legends, the UP teams that played the Packers.
Thursday night at 8 on WNMU TV.
Welcome back to Public Eye News. I'm Megan Garcia here with your web and overcast. Today, it'll be our partly cloudy skies, a temperature of 26 degrees. Our winds are north at 16 miles per hour, and our barometric pressure is 30.10 inches and rising. Looking into tonight's conditions, it'll be mostly cloudy skies with a low of 19 degrees. Our winds will be north at 10 to 15 miles per hour. And tomorrow's conditions will be mostly cloudy skies again with a high of 24 degrees, and our winds will be north at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Looking across the UP, it is skies throughout, starting in Marine is 31 degrees, down in Manistee 32, Escanaba at 35, down in Menominee 41 degrees, Iron Mountain is 36, Ironwood 35, up in Houghton it is 28, and here in beautiful Marquette it is 26 degrees. Looking ahead at our weekly conditions, starting with Friday, it'll be a high of 29 and a low of 17 degrees, partly cloudy skies. Saturday will be a high of 30 and a low of 17, again, partly cloudy skies. And Sunday will be a high of 42 and a low of 35 with clouds later in the day. Now going to Scott Minshaw with our sports.
Thanks a lot, Megan. Well, in a shocking story, 10-time MLB All-Star and 2-time World Series MVP winner Albert Pujols may be older than you think. According to one Major League Baseball executive, Pujols has been lying about his age his entire career. Former Miami Marlins president David Sampson said, quote, "No one in baseball believed Pujols was telling the truth about his age when he signed a 10-year, $240 million contract," end quote. Pujols reigns from the Dominican Republic, where it is not uncommon for players to change their name or birthdays in order to have a better shot at breaking into the major leagues. This is not the first time a story like this has broken headlines, though. Former shortstop Miguel Tejada claimed he was 2 years younger than he actually was when he signed with the Oakland Athletics in 1993. Last week, after pro golfer Tiger Woods was seriously injured in a car accident, investigators are now starting to take a deeper look at that accident. The LA County Sheriff's Department used a warrant to obtain the black box information from Woods' car. With the help of the black box, investigators will be able to determine the speed, steering angle, braking, and acceleration of the vehicle during the accident. Sheriff's Deputy John Shogel said, quote, "We're trying to determine if a crime was committed," end quote, and claims they're just doing due diligence. Last week, LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva said they were not pressing charges and that the crash was purely accidental. After 50 years, the Washington football team is discontinuing their cheerleading program. The team is implementing a co-ed dance team as part of its rebranding effort after changing the name of their team prior to the 2020 season. The team, along with senior advisor Aide Petra Pope, claims their goal is to, quote, "make a more modern franchise," end quote. All former cheerleaders are still eligible to try out for the new squad, and the team will hire around 36 new dancers. Along with the change to co-ed, Washington's dance team will also no longer partake in calendar photo shoots. Well, thrill seekers beware. There is a new challenge for those looking to gamble with their lives. Two skiers in Yosemite National Park have successfully navigated down Half Dome in the park. The skiers had to switch back and forth between skiing and rappelling down the cliff, which has sections known as death slabs. The adventurers said it's a dangerous feat to accomplish and should only be attempted by trained professionals. Well, on that note, that is all we have for you today. Have a nice night and take care.
The preceding program was produced by WNMU TV, Northern Michigan University Public Television, in studios located in Elizabeth and Edgar Hardin Hall.